Foul Territory is presented by Fox One. Kratz, we're going to talk about what happened to New York, the Yankees, and the Mets because we'll talk to their hitting coach.
He gone. Eric Chavez, Mike Wilner, join in.
Hey, we have changes. We have a team advancing to the championship series. That pretty bracket looking a little bit different. And also, we are well aware that AJ is traveling back to Seattle, I believe, after the show today. Hence the Seahawks sweatshirt. Is that a fresh Seahawks sweatshirt?
Fresh, brand new, because I went to the game on Sunday. But I also have a Michigan hat on. It's a Michigan. It's lost in, so it's in the state of Michigan. I don't know if you can see it.
Yep.
But just since every fan thinks that I hate Detroit and I hate Seattle, I figured I'd wear a Michigan hat and a Seahawks. That way I have them both covered, see?
You're going to really confuse people. You're going to be like, wait, I thought he hates me, but he likes me. Oh, I'm so mad.
Yeah.
I just want to take my frustration out on the broadcasters.
Yes. Yes, your team's losing. I'm sorry that we talk about the team that's winning and doing the right things. I am sorry. You know, we should really talk about the team that's losing and can't get a hit or can't score a run or makes errors instead, because that's your team and that's the team that's doing the right thing.
How dare you? How dare you talk about the Tigers offense exploding, which we'll get to later. This is cool. We have 3 teams left and we can show the bracket in the American League side. Obviously, we're going to get a game 5 that AJ is going to be calling, Tigers and Mariners. That's tomorrow. Blue Jays advance. We'll talk plenty about that. We're in a situation where either the Blue Jays make it to the World Series, been a minute. Tigers make it to the World Series, been less than a minute, but they haven't won in a while. And the Mariners make it to the World Series for the first time ever. So some cool scenarios that are set up here with what is left in the American League. And can I ask a TV question? Because we're going to do a post-game show after Phillies Dodgers today. Anyone show of hands know why the Phillies and Dodgers are going to play an early game today after their late game? So they can travel back quicker?
Guess they have to go to Philly.
So they have a day off.
I don't know. I don't know why. Who the heck
Weird
knows?
timing. We have the Central Time game at 9, and we have the West Coast game 8 Central. The West Coast game at 3 p.m. local time in Los Angeles. I'm sure fans in Los Angeles are thrilled.
Yeah, they're gonna make it right on time.
That does suck, though. I would love an explanation on that one. Besides we're going to save people 3 hours of flying time. So if they played the late game, they'd fly back. Or they can sleep there and then fly back on a full day off and then play game 5 on Friday if that ends up happening.
That's what the Mariners did. The Tigers did before they played the Mariners in Detroit. They waited and flew later. The Mariners took the red eye home and the other team did not. So, but I have a question for y'all. The Mariners, Blue Jays, or Tigers are going to represent the AL. I was just walking around outside in Detroit and people were asking me, they're like, oh, it's so good for these small market teams to win. And I'm like, is it good though? Because my question about that is, if a small market team wins, doesn't it incentivize the small market teams not to spend money? Doesn't it incentivize these teams to say, oh, look, the Brewers are doing it on this payroll and this team didn't spend money and they won the World Series? Doesn't it incentivize teams not to spend money?
I hear what you're saying.
I don't know. I'm just asking because when these guys were working and they came up to me and, hey, we're Tigers fans, we watch the broadcast, we're super excited because these small market teams have a chance this year. And then when he said that, I was like, okay, I get it. You want your team to win and, any team to win is great that hasn't done it. But at the end of the day, if the Rays would have won World Series all those years, they haven't won one. Every team already wants to be the Rays. Wouldn't it push more teams to be the Rays?
Detroit is a top 15 TV market, so I hope they're not considering.
But they don't spend. They didn't spend a lot.
Well, they used to. Now they don't. Also, let's see. Let's see the Tigers make it to the World Series first. Okay, I'm going to be
Brewers,
the first one out there to say I don't think the Tigers are going to be representing the AL. I think it'll be either
the Brewers and the Mariners
or Toronto.
Brewers are
Okay.
Mariners. And then you go in the NL, I mean, the Brewers. I mean, the Cubs, Phillies, Dodgers obviously are big market. The Cubs sometimes don't act like it, but the other two do.
Okay,
right?
so
there's
two things.
half and half.
One, in Major League Baseball, there is parity, and that's why the whole salary cap tired discussion is lame when you see a season like this. The other side of the coin is the Mariners can afford to be like this. They didn't do this the last couple years. They pushed chips in a little bit, right? A little bit at the deadline. You pick up some guys that are going to be free agents after this year anyway. It just costs you for the rest of this season. Gino Suarez, Josh Naylor, look how much of a difference that makes to the lineup, AJ. And also for Seattle in general, the way they've handled things. They've barely made any postseason appearances in the 21st century. So I feel like both sides of the coin apply here. It's like if you try a little bit harder like you do now, look at where things end up for you. I actually think the lessons are good here.
But that's my question, though. Don't you see the question? And listen, I know Detroit's not a small market. Toronto's definitely not a small market. They have all of Canada. Okay? Seattle could be a big market. They've been in the past. They just it hasn't worked. They just act like they're a small market. Detroit could be, they used to spend money. They don't anymore because they say, oh, we're in the Central, we're a small market, blah, blah, blah. Milwaukee definitely is a small market, right? So 3 of the 6 teams act like they're small markets, and 3 of the 6 teams don't. So it's just a question. I don't know. It was just something I was thinking about, and I figured you guys might have an opinion one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the last thing we should mention before we get to the Phillies-Dodgers series officially is that Kratz forgot to notify us that the Eagles play tonight.
Completely forgot about that. I was actually looking at that game, so can't cross over the market. Even though they're on the West Coast, even though baseball is in the greatest time of the year for baseball, we bow down to the NFL.
Yes, exactly. Well, we're going to go up against the NFL tonight, live on YouTube with our post-game show, because our post-game show is going to be during that Eagles game. Not to mention, this game's still going to spill into the football game. I get it, but just go right up against it. I mean, if you went late, I would have said, okay, maybe do a 9:30 or something, right? And then you watch the second half of Eagles, and then you watch the second half of the Phillies game, if that's what you choose. But anyway, not our problem. Phillies-Dodgers game 4, post-game show on the FT YouTube channel later tonight. Let's charge. Charging the mound. This might not even be a hot take anymore, but Kratz, do the Phillies play better in the postseason on the road these days?
I can't deny that they played better last night against possibly a better pitcher in Yamamoto than they had faced at home. The record would show during the regular season that they play really well at home. What happens in the postseason? I don't know. Kyle Schwarber was 0 for the first 2 games. Bryce Harper had 1 hit. Trey Turner had 1 hit. To me, that's the biggest thing. When they faced in 23, when they faced the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks, they came back home needing to win 1 game, and they were like, oh, well, they can't hit anything up and in, so we'll just pound cutters up and in, heaters up and in, and make them chase away. So is there something about being at home that makes them play worse? No, I don't think so. I think it's a small sample size, but it's a sample size that we have because it's the postseason, and this team has to win in the postseason. So I don't think it's a cold take.
AJ at bats against Yamamoto looked pretty damn good. I mean, they were laying off
pitches. They just had good at bats. Listen,
power. Yeah, but those are better at bats than at home.
Yeah, okay. So they had bad nights. I mean, Kratz, come on. Listen, you want to know how you look good when you look good? Look at the Tigers yesterday. Man, they were full of energy after the 5th inning because they were hitting homers and getting runs. If you ain't getting hits, guess what? You're like, oh, this is boring. This sucks, man, on the bench. And everyone's like, come on, let's go. Come on, figure it out, right? And then you don't get any hits, and you're like, man, this sucks. Or Teoscar goes deep late in the game to give you the other team a lead. It saps the energy. I mean, listen, Nick Castellanos got blasted for what he said, but you can also see it from both sides. I'm sorry. You know, if you have a great home field advantage and they're behind you, and then all of a sudden you start doing things poorly and they start booing and getting mad at you, man, it puts pressure back on you. I mean, I look at the Tigers yesterday. The Tigers are getting booed off the field. Riley Green hit a ground ball to first. They booed the crap out of him in Detroit at Comerica Park, right? Yankees, Aaron Judge, he was getting booed last postseason. Okay, boo, 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 boo. I'm sorry, but it puts more pressure on you. Trey Turner, when they did the standing ovation, turned his season around because they were getting on him, and all of a sudden he's like, man, they really do like me. So is it a hot take? No. But is it reality of being a human being and a person? Absolutely.
I think we've talked about home field advantage a lot, and I said it yesterday. I think and I think this is what AJ was just saying, that the boos at home hurt more than the cheering at home. I feel like you kind of zone things out, but when things are going bad, that's when you lose your zone. That's when you're like, distractions kind of creep in, and then you hear the boos. Yeah, you hear them. Like, is it just about you? No. Should Nick Castellanos be getting the fire that he's been getting? No, he's been one of their best playoff performers. If it's about the performance you put on the field, or if it's just about the angst that the whole team isn't doing good, the team would have been booed if they were at home last night in the first 3 innings when they had 0 hits and 1 walk. Schwarber comes up, he hits a dinger, they would have started to cheer. Like, nobody's booing anybody after a double. Your own fans aren't booing somebody after they hit a double. They're booing them after they hit a ground ball double play, strikeout, whatever it is.
Yeah, and on the visiting side, I mean, we spoke to Max Muncy yesterday, and he echoed how cool it is, and many players have said that. I feel like some players are kind of getting up for the Philly crowd. I will speak on the reporter side, as I've been to many playoff ballparks, and I thought that Philly was the coolest experience. So maybe visiting players are feeling that way, and hearing boos for them doesn't really do much. If it's loud and it's crazy and it feels special, I think guys are rising to the occasion. But let's focus on some decision making here. Let's start with Kershaw. AJ, shaky 7th, left in for the nightmare inning, which is called the 8th inning for the Dodgers bullpen. Why?
I don't know. Do I look like Dave Roberts? I don't look like Dave Roberts. I got blue on, but I don't look like Dave Roberts.
What would you have done?
I don't know. I fell asleep, so I don't really know what happened. So I'm looking right now. I'm not going to.
All right, over to Kratz. Over to Kratz.
Barely had a bad 8th inning. I don't know. Would I have left him in? Yeah, but they were chasing. They were already losing. So Dave Roberts, I think, was like, all right, Kershaw's already in. He can give us the innings, and he can keep us in this game. He's hoping, because he had pitched well out of the pen earlier. So I think that's what it was. And he didn't want to go to his bigger guys. He didn't want to go to some of the other guys and already chasing. Like, there's times where you have to chase. Plus, they have a 2-1 lead. So he didn't want to use his big guys again because he had already used them twice. So he's like, okay, Kersh, keep us in the game. Maybe finish the game. Our bats can come alive. It didn't happen. They got to him. I mean, so what? They're still up 2-1. They still have a chance to go to the next round today.
It all could have happened in the 7th inning. He was definitely – he wasn't sharp. You know, he was pull hooking some balls. That cutter was never a strike, so it was down below early. The curveball, he landed a few for strikes, but they were being very patient, and they weren't chasing the pitches he wanted them to. They ran into some outs in that 7th inning, so I think maybe Doc was like, okay, I got a starter out there. I am still losing. I'm going to throw Kershaw back out there. His 2nd inning is going to be better. He's going to start finding the groove, and then it happened fast. I think maybe a little bit, if you really want to be critical of Doc, maybe he wasn't reading that he wasn't landing balls in the zone. Like, he was kind of around the zone, and when he came in, the swings that the boys were taking were not good. And I mean, were solid swings. They were getting their A swing off, and I think then once you get like even 2 or 3 runs there, now you're like, all right, I guess we'll stick with them a little bit longer. And then, you know, it just got bigger and bigger.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you can make a point. Okay, JT, Real Muto, leadoff home run, top of the 8th. Maybe I take him out here, hung a slider. Okay, Trey Turner 2-run single. It's 6-1. At that point, like you said, they're punting. But AJ, something that you bring up on big games like the postseason series you're doing right now is there is a game inside the game when you're getting blown out. Can you get to the closer? Yon Duran has talked about how 3 outs is boring for him. We are all waiting for that Duran moment. It could come in game 4. I think he could go 6, if not more. I think he's capable of going even potentially 3 innings. That's how crazy he is. But at least 6 outs now are preserved for him for game 4. You didn't even give yourself a chance to go crack the closer.
I don't think the Dodgers are scared of him. I mean, he's great, but I don't think the Dodgers are scared of any pitcher, to be honest with you. And once it got to 6-1 or whatever, it was like you said. I don't want to say they punted, because you never really want to punt a playoff game, but you have to start looking ahead. And again, like when I talked to Hinch here in Detroit, he was thinking during game 3, hey, we still have to win 2 more games if we're not going to win game 3. So he saved all his guys. And did the score get a little out of hand? Sure. But you know what he had for game 4? He had them all. He had Melton, Holt, and Vest for 2, Finnegan for 2. He had them all lined up the way he wanted, right? So he said, okay, we're not winning this game. I don't feel like we're winning this game. Let's get ready for having to win 2 games in 3 days. And that's what he did. He's like, I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. And that's what it feels like Dave Roberts did a little bit here. He's like, okay, Kirsch gave up some runs. We're probably not going to win this game. If we get Duran in, great. If we don't, okay, so what? But we need to win 1 more game in the next 2. And with Glass now going game 4, he has all of his big bullpen guys ready to go. So I think that's what he was doing. No Vesia, you notice. Trinan did have to pitch, but no Vesia in this one, no Sheehan, no some of the big guys for the Dodgers that they've used so far to get where they are.
Of course, no Roki, too. Kratz.
Well,
Doc did this last year. There were some games where you're like, the Dodgers kind of giving up on this one to set up for the next day, and it worked out.
And they don't show. The big thing that we never talk about that much is they didn't show the guys. They didn't show any of their big boys. Like, to keep a game 3-1, you see Duran warming up down there, you're like, it's going to be tough to scrape 2. Okay, whack, JT Realmuto homer. It's going to be tough to scrape 3 runs out. How are we going to get these outs without throwing our best, without throwing Roki, without throwing whoever else they're going to, their cavalcade of Vesia. And then it's another day they don't see those guys. That is huge. And I think we're going to talk about it with the Tigers series later, but that is huge. That is hitter advantage when they see him. So when they see the same reliever so many times.
Well, Kratz, now the Dodgers get to see Christopher Sanchez again. And Tyler Glasnow pitched in relief in game 1, but he pops up here in this game 4. Sanchez was getting plenty of swing and miss, 2 earned runs over his 5 2/3, 8 strikeouts. Glasnow was nice and clean with the runs, 1 2/3 shutouts and his shutout innings in his appearance. Kratz, I'll go to you first, because I actually looked. Sanchez has had some trouble this season with the Dodgers. I know it was the regular season. Do you think that factors in here at all for the Dodgers, seeing him again so quickly? I know we've got the shadow action that's going to go on and be a pain for both sides. What do you think?
I think it's an upgrade for the Dodgers. They get to see how he was going to attack them the last game. Now they're going to face him again. They are a really good team at making adjustments. They're not a team that just takes the same swing, same zone. If you don't throw the ball into that zone, we don't hit it. But I think the Dodgers collectively will make decisions at the plate that will help them. The shadows are going to be an absolute menace for both of these guys. The issue with Glasnow is, can he land enough strikes? 2 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks. It was an inning and 2/3. Like, that's where I think the Phillies have the advantage hitters wise, is he doesn't throw enough strikes. If he's throwing strikes, Glasnow is going to be unhittable in those shadows. Because I think the curveball is tougher to hit out of the shadows than that changeup is from Sanchez.
I disagree. With that. I think the curveball you see pop up out of his hand. The changeup and the fastball look the same. Like a smaller breaking ball is tougher. I always thought like a slider or a cutter, because it doesn't have the pop out of the hand. When you throw a ball, it goes whoop out of the hand, so you can see that, and you're like, oh, curveball. Now, Glasnow throws 100 from 17 feet above your head, so that's going to make a little bit different. But you know what? We did it the other day too on our Fox broadcast. Can we stop with the shadows? I'm over the shadows. Like, I mean, we got to talk about the shadows nonstop. It's like I get it. Every day game is there going to be shadows, but like, come on, guys, it's the big leagues. You've hit in shadows before. The visiting team should have an advantage because every visiting team road game you go on, if you take the late batting practice, you have shadows anyway. So you should be used to the shadows if you're the visiting team.
I think some of them were tougher. I'll be honest. I faced Kershaw in Game 5 of the NLCS, and it was this start time, and it was Kershaw. I didn't see Kershaw's curveball coming out, and I never really had a tough time seeing Kershaw. I'm not saying like I owned him or anything. I probably had 4 or 5 at-bats against him, but I felt like I saw him well, and I could not pick up the curveball out of his hand. And he's got a big one, and I get it. It's supposed to be going up out of the hand, and that's what I was thinking, and I thought it was a heater every time.
Okay, so last question. Can the Phillies pull this off? They got one. Can they do 2 more? One in LA and then one back at home. Kratz, you, then AJ?
Can they? Yes. Exactly why I said yesterday they have a chance. I didn't think they had a chance, but they had a chance if Schwarber, Harper, Turner did their job. And then they got some from Real Muto. And then they had guys that stepped up and got hits. It's a lineup that can get in fuego hot. And 2 dingers from Schwarber. Does that mean he hits another one tonight? Like, they're going to need all that. They're going to need all of it because the Dodgers lineup is not easy to hold down.
Agreed. But you know what I want to see? Shohei, Game 5 in Philly again. That's what I want to see. And then who do the Phillies pitch? I mean, will it be? I guess it'd be Luzardo again. But wow, I mean, do we not want to see Shohei in Game 5 with the season on the line after all the stuff he's been through? Like, bring it on. If I'm a baseball fan, can the Phillies do it? Absolutely, they can do it. Their team is good. I mean, to me, the Phillies and Dodgers are the 2 best teams. I know the Brewers will say something about that, and the Blue Jays will say something about that, and the teams left, but the Cubs, they're still alive too. But honestly, it's just these 2 are the most talented teams 1 through 26. If you look at star power, if you look at pitching, if you look at everything, these are the 2 best teams left.
Yep, and one's getting bounced in the next couple days. If you have thoughts on the series, let us know. If you're watching this later on or you're watching it now, drop comments. Otherwise, we'll get to the ALDS. Yankees taken down by the Blue Jays in the Bronx. That's coming up. This episode of FT is presented by Fox One. AJ, if people have the Fox One app, then they get to listen to you, Adam Wainwright, and Adam Amin for one more game. A Game 5 on Friday
all
night.
On the line.
All alone. No Yankees, Blue Jays. Just your game. A Game 5. What time is that game?
8 Eastern. So prime time. And listen, I'm pumped, man. Friday, there's no other games. There's really not a lot of college football on Friday night. It is baseball. And we complained there was no games on a Friday night before. Well, guess what? You get Game 5. My question is this going to be the only Game 5? Because I don't know. Do we think the Phillies get it done? But I love the fact that we get a Game 5. This will be my 3rd Game 5 I've got to do. They are awesome. They are fun. My first 2 years I did this, I got to do Game 5, and I haven't had one since. So guys are pretty excited about it. The crew is super excited about getting to do a winner-take-all game.
Yeah, it's fun. Crazy things happen, right? We'll probably see
managers panic like nobody. Oh my gosh!
Decisions scrutinized. So we're excited about it. We'll be watching and listening to you guys. And if you don't have a way to get the game, everyone has a way to get the game now. Okay, it's the Fox One app. We're pumping it the next few weeks here on FT. You can stream Fox One. You can get yourself a free 7-day trial by hitting that QR code or going to the description, either in this YouTube episode or if you're listening to us on podcast form, you can do the same over there. All right, coming back on. Can I actually read this news that just came through here? Nathan Eovaldi. Sports hernia surgery. Okay, that's not that bad. I saw surgery and I was like, uh-oh, sports hernia surgery. He'll be back for spring training, right? You guys haven't had hernias, have you? No.
They look painful.
Corey
though.
Seager had it, remember? And he was out for a long time.
They missed it. That was the problem. Corey Seager had a very unique situation. They could not figure out what was wrong, or they misdiagnosed. I don't remember, but they did not diagnose the sports hernia, and then they finally did, and that's why he missed a little bit of the beginning of this season, right? Was it this season or the year before?
Okay.
I don't even remember. It was this year?
I know he missed part of the beginning of the season, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought that was last
anyway.
year. I thought it was after the World Series.
It might have been after the World Series. The years are starting to string together. Like the foul territory era is getting a little bit lengthy. Hot corner, let's sizzle flames in the Bronx today. People are very pissed all around the tri-state area. The Yankees are taken down in a game 4 where they were pretty heavily favored. We'll spend a lot of time on the Blue Jays later in the show. Let's first focus on the Yankees side of the equation. AJ, Cam Schlittler essentially did his job, but so did the bullpen game, scripted and executed beautifully by Toronto in this win.
Yeah, you know why? Because nobody had a bad night. That was why. Nobody had a bad night. Everybody was locked in. Everybody from the beginning of the game in Varland to the end at Hoffman. Everybody was locked in and everyone pitched great. And man, it was perfectly executed. And I don't know what you want. I don't know what Yankee fans want someone to say. The Blue Jays finished ahead of them in the season because they won the season series, and now they beat them 3 out of 4. They dominate them in Toronto. They probably, other than the Judge game yesterday or 2 days ago, they probably should have swept them. And listen, for all the people that say Judge can't hit in the postseason, well, he hit this postseason, and the Yankees still didn't win. So I don't know what y'all want, but there's some other people that it ain't Judge's fault, and it ain't Aaron Boone's fault. Aaron Boone did everything he can. Judge did everything that he could. Some guys didn't pitch their best, some guys didn't play their best. So I don't know. I just thought it was. The Blue Jays were just better. That's all I can say. In this series, the Blue Jays were better, and for this year, the Blue Jays were a better team.
The Blue Jays baseballed better. They were able to get guys over when they needed to. They were facing a dude that just came off of one of the best, most dominant playoff performances pitching that you've seen, and really just kind of worked him enough. There's plenty of times where a pitcher is throwing and you're like, man, he is dominating us. Let's get him out of the game, because they didn't strike out. They worked his pitch count enough that, you know what, it was time eventually to get him out. Hats off to Cam Schlittler. Go from 12 strikeouts to 1 and still have an awesome start. He did an amazing job. Hats off to Aaron Judge. He did an amazing job this entire series. Continuing in the last game, he was 2 feet from another dinger. To me, the Blue Jays just were a more complete baseball team, a more complete 26 players, and you could dive into every single one of them on the Blue Jays, and what they did, they just played baseball better than them. And you know what? Kudos to the Blue Jays, because a lot of people were like, you can't do it this way. You can't win this way. There's no way it doesn't succeed. They could still hit some dingers. They can still drive some runs in. And they outpitched the Blue Jays, and they outpitched the Yankees, and they outhit the Yankees.
Let's not forget.
Hold on. Isn't that the name of the game? You're playing baseball. So if they out-baseball them, that means they were a better team. Yeah, they out-based.
Do you think?
Isn't that what the Brewers do to most teams? They out-baseball them because they go first to third and they bunt and they take the extra base and do all those things. Isn't that baseball? Yes, homers are nice and homers are great, but you still have to play baseball. And the Blue Jays. Listen, the Blue Jays, the game they lost, you can say what you want. I know the Judge homers, what everyone remembers. And by the way, people that say that's Judge's moment, okay, it was a cool moment, but they didn't win, so it doesn't really matter. It goes away. Yankee fans only care if you get those in the World Series. I remember Derek Jeter because he's hitting homers in the World Series. So, but the Blue Jays lost that game because Barger dropped a pop-up that led to all the trouble starting, right? If he catches that pop-up, the Blue Jays probably sweep the Yankees and they go quietly into the night. No one's talking about anything, right? So it came down to the Blue Jays were just a better baseball team because we played baseball.
Yep. That's it. And I think that's lost in the numbers. Look, you can go to all the metrics and everything. The metrics are going to say the Blue Jays are a good team. The metrics are going to say, well, in a vacuum, the Yankees are a better team. Well, in a vacuum, that's what the Yankees are using right now because they're sweeping up their locker room and they're going home. Like, you have to play the game on the field. You have to say, how's Vladimir Guerrero going to beat me if he's hitting 600 in the series? He's going to beat me by walking him, and then he's going to have to get around the bases on his own. We're going to make someone else beat us. That's baseball. How are we going to be able to recover from not having our starting shortstop? Oh, because we traded for Andres Jimenez, who you knew wasn't going to hit, but he can step in and play shortstop if we need him. We also have someone else that can step in and play shortstop. Like, those are things that your team has to be able to be fluid and be able to make plays, put a bunt down if needed, and field the ground ball. Like, there's a lot of things that go into being a baseball team, and that's why I said they got baseballed. They played baseball better, and it's a funny, quirky way of saying it, but it's the truth.
Also, last year this team made the World Series. They had Juan Soto. They lost Juan Soto. They had to do other things. They fixed some parts of the team, but other parts of the team are still not good enough, right? Kratz, for me, Juan Soto would have helped a lot. They needed a lot more offense in a series like this. First of all, in the first two games, Gausman and Trey Savage with their splitters alone, and I know those are two of the best on the planet, but every young pitcher out there now is like, oh, I know how to beat the Yankees. I got to learn how to throw a splitter. If I don't have a splitter, I got to learn how to throw a splitter. But for the Yanks, I mean, there were plenty of opportunities here, even in this game, right? Hoffman loaded up the bases and Wells didn't come through. Anthony Volpe had one of the worst series I've ever seen in my life in a division series in a 4-game spot. He was 1 for 15 with 11 strikeouts, and he had a nightmare year. It's true, right? His defense took a major step back, tons of swing and miss. He can give you that flash, but for the most part, it was a nightmare season. And this was a series where he was a super, super negative. And not that they're just relying on him, but overall, when you look at this team, I'm like, were they a better team than last year? I don't think so.
This is going to come across as being super critical of the Yankees, and I'm going to try to not make it about one player. It's not about Volpe. It's not about, Max Fried not having his best outing. It's about the team and the fact that they want to win a World Series. They're built to win a World Series. Fans expect that. So we're criticizing them not on the same level as you criticize a team that's never in the playoffs, that never puts money forward. To me, it's criticism of this is an incredibly well-built offense in the sense of we're going to score runs. We're going to do this. I get it. There's chance that we can get pitched to, but you know what? Overall, in the 162 games, we're going to be this good. But when you get to the playoffs, you have to be able to make an adjustment. I saw one of the guys on the team, because I said I'm not going to make it individual, kept taking the same exact swing on every single pitch, and they hit his bat one time, and the ball went out of the ballpark. Other times, never made an adjustment, and his at-bats were kind of meh. Can you make an adjustment? I love the fact that they picked up Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt tries to make the adjustments. At this point in his career, he's not an MVP anymore. Cody Bellinger tried to make the adjustments. So I felt like the team was built to win. Were they built to be the best team in Major League Baseball? Clearly not well enough because they didn't accomplish it.
And clearly you're talking about Jazz would be my guess because he did hit a homer. But besides that, I mean, I didn't play, but I saw swings like that. So that sounds like Jazz. That sounds like what I'm talking about with Volpe. Giancarlo was superhuman last year. He wasn't this year. They pitched well. But I love his point, AJ. Do you agree? The Yankees could beat the crap out of some teams this year. They destroyed teams they were supposed to destroy. Those pitchers are not as good as the ones that you're going to see in the postseason. Do you think that base, the famous computer system for the Yankees, is not factoring in how postseason baseball is different when they're constructing the roster and even the lineup, which, according to Derek Jeter, is how things are done. Jeter on the postgame show said, quote, "I'm pretty sure Aaron's not the one that's calling every move that they make throughout the game."
Listen, it's a human game, okay? And you have to understand, in the postseason and in the regular season, you can catch guys and you can get fourth starters, you can get fifth starters, you can get middle relievers in the third game of a series because you've beaten up the other guys. But in the postseason, those guys go away and you get everybody's best shot and you get everybody's best matchup. And if you don't have guys that can do multiple things, kind of like Kratz is saying, make adjustments, put the ball in play, get the guy over, do little things, and you better be able to play defense in the postseason, because if you can't play defense and you're giving good teams extra outs, it usually doesn't work out for you. So, yeah. Do I think it's roster construction? 100%. I think what Alex Rodriguez said was smart. They have, 3 left-handed hitting catchers, 5 DHs, and first basemen that they have to platoon all the time. He's like, it's not good roster construction. And I can't argue that, because it comes down to, if you're Aaron Boone, you got to ride with the guys you got. You can't make a magical trade in the postseason and say, hey, we want this guy, we want that guy. You got what you got. So I just think it was a flawed team this year. I think they were a good team. They weren't a great team. And I just think, as Kratz said earlier, the Blue Jays were a better team and they outplayed baseball against them. And that's what the Blue Jays have done to a lot of teams. They string hits together and then boom, someone pops one. They play an unbelievable defense. They don't give up extra outs. Their starters especially are strike throwers and they don't give up a ton of home runs. So I think, they just got beat by a better team. It's okay. It happens. I've been on teams that I thought were good, but you know what? We ran into a team that was better, and you lose. Stuff happens.
And you sit there and you go, what are the holy grails of baseball for the metrics, for base? You were talking about base. It's who hits the ball the hardest, who throws it the hardest, and strikes the most people out. You build your team on that, you better never, ever, ever veer from that and have a bad day of that. Because if you do, it's going to look listless. It's going to look lifeless. It's going to not look like the first series of the year where they played the Brewers, a team that's still in contention for the World Series, and they put up 10, 12, 11, 13 runs. Like, they can bludgeon teams to death with their lineup. But can they make the adjustment? I disagree with Scott. I think this offense is elite and was built to be elite. I think they need to figure out how to make adjustments. How many years did we talk about the Dodgers not making adjustments, not, always being platoon heavy? Max Muncy came on last year and was like, oh, yeah, we had the line, or yesterday, and he said, we used to have the line change of Jock Peterson, Cody Bellinger, and him from the left side. And he's like, now we've kind of shifted that. Can the Yankees shift that? Because they are already up at the top elite class in the American League, in my opinion. They need something to get them over the top. No longer do they have the advantage that they used to have, building teams, being the best team. They need something that gets them over the top, and I don't think they're that far from that.
Yeah, but when they're elite, they need Volpe going. They need Jazz going. They need Ryan McMahon to do something. They need Bellinger good. They need Stanton good. There's a lot of guys they need good. It's a hit or miss. That's the thing. When they're hitting and they're going, look out, right? But when they're not hitting and they're just, Judge and everyone else is trying to play catch up, they're not good. I'm sorry. They're not. They're so home run reliant that's why their record wasn't good in the extra innings, because they couldn't get the guy over to score that run when they needed to. It was too many strikeouts. So, yeah, could they be great? Absolutely. But could they also go through stretches where they were terrible? We saw that too.
They have a type, and that type is not working for them lately in terms of going the distance. Again, they made it to the World Series last year, but I look at that as a better team last year, yet an outlier.
But here's the thing for Yankee fans. They look at the American League and say, gosh, how can we not beat the Mariners? Oh, man, the Tigers, the Blue Jays who haven't been there. We're the Yankees. We should beat – this should have been – we already beat the Red Sox, right? And they celebrated like they won the World Series when they beat the Red Sox. Fine. That's good for them. But they look at the American League and say, we're the Yankees. We should dominate all these other teams. And now we're bounced, and we're going to have to watch the Blue Jays play the Mariners or the Tigers. What is going on in Yankee land? That's the fans' perspective. True or not, that's the fans, the way they look at it.
Yeah. And you can say we're being haters, but I mean, most real Yankee fans are disappointed today. And pinstripe territory was crazy last night after the game. And then he's already put out his top 5 Yankees who won't be back for 2026. So make sure you check that out. That one always gets a lot of attention. Derek Lewandowski running point. And also, by the way, fair territory with Ken Rosenthal tomorrow. We'll touch on what happened to the Yankees in that game and this season. We will be right back to talk about AJ's series in Seattle. Marc has a tweet from The Athletic. Baseball is so funny. Jay switched to their white panel hats to change the vibe, and they've worn them ever since. After not wearing them for years, Phillies asked for permission to wear powdered blues, and they were opening a can on the Dodgers. I like it. It's a superstitious sport. I mean, AJ, you know that.
Oh, trust me. Guess what they'll be wearing today? Powder blues.
Powder blues.
100%. Yeah, I mean, if you wear, I know in 2005 we had the vests, we had the sleeveless uniforms. There's Kratz says powder blue, but we had our vest and we didn't lose in our vest. And as soon as we lost in our vest, we switched to the other one. So, I mean, it's the way, especially if you have now all the different options you have. Like people don't want to. The Rays, remember, got on a hot streak in their City Connects. Was it last year or 2 years ago? And guess what they wore every game? The City Connects. They were like, we want to wear them on the road. We don't care. And, you know, baseball led them, and they stayed hot. And as soon as they lost, they switched back. It's baseball. It's funny. Doesn't matter. And it doesn't really matter, but people think it matters.
AJ loves the baby blues. That is the one team. Besides the fact that he just wants to hang out with the boys in the clubhouse with the Phillies, the baby blues will make his baby blues come out.
I never played with a team baby blues. I should have. They weren't popular, though. They weren't
that
popular, though, you know?
That would have been illegal. They would have been. It wouldn't be Tom Brady on the cover of Fox 1. It would be AJ. I mean, just like,
would be AJ
just like this.
Blues
You'd be like,
Hey, listen, Brady's my pal. Okay, I have a picture with him. So
yeah,
we're
but
AJ
now
Blues
guys.
Steel. Do all of our fans know Zoolander, or is that already too long ago?
No.
Like,
Well, I brought up Tropic Thunder. I brought up Tropic Thunder to you the other day, Scott.
I know what the movie is, though.
You did not know what the movie is. Don't lie.
Yes, I did know what the movie is.
You did not. You did not.
I did. Downey, Jack Black. I've seen bits and pieces. It's like when it's
Simple
on
Jack.
one of the premium channels when you're growing up, and then, you know, it's all fuzzy because I don't get the channel.
How cheap are you, Scott?
I'm actually very gracious. Anyway, coming up next,
Gracious.
I think we're going to talk about Game 5 in Seattle, but we are also awaiting our Blue Jays guest, Mike Wilner. So those are your next 2 on it. Better than box scores, the Tigers win, and they force a Game 5 on Friday in Seattle. We do have a post-game show posted on our YouTube channel with me and with Trevor May. So if you'd like to check out thoughts from us right after the game, you can do that later. But AJ is calling that series. So let's get your instant reaction to what's coming next here. What should we expect for Game 5? Does that Tigers offensive burst carry over? Does Skubal finally beat the Mariners this year? How do the Mariners employ their starting staff, right? Because they've got 2 guys that can go in Luis Castillo and George Kirby. What do you have for us?
Okay, first of all, we'll start with this. Do you think that at the beginning of this series, if you would have told AJ Hinch they'd be 2-2, they would have lost the Skubal game, and they'd have Skubal going Game 5, he would have taken it? Even though they got to fly to Seattle, you think he would have taken it?
Oh, hell yes.
100% he would have taken it. Now, If you're the Mariners, you say we've beaten Skubal 3 times already this year. Luis Castillo has beaten him twice head-to-head. Now, not him, but they won both. They won all 3 games that Skubal has pitched against them. You think the Mariners are afraid of Terrence Skubal? I don't know, because they've already beaten him 3 times. They got a chance to beat him 4 times in a season, and he's the best. Him and Skeens, you could make the argument, are probably the best 2 pitchers in the world right now. So, wow, I don't know. There's a lot of drama for this. The Seattle crowd is going to be going bonkers because they're thinking they got a chance to not only win this series but go to the World Series for the first time ever. The Tigers, I know Detroit is crazy. Detroit was rocking yesterday. It's going to be fascinating, how well Erik pitches, because he pitched really well last time. 7 innings, really only 2 mistakes, the 2 homers to Polanco. Luis Castillo pitched great. George Kirby pitched really well, only gave up the 1 mistake to Kerry Carpenter. And then the bullpen deployment, man. These 2 guys, it's like, all right, well, I saw this guy. Now I'm going to pitch this guy. And, Hinch and Dan Wilson are going back and forth, and why are they making moves and trying to take pieces off the board and move guys around and this and that, changing lineups to set matchups. There's a lot of strategy in this game. There's a lot of ifs, and there's a lot of buts, and there's a lot of we can see this and we can see that. There's a million different scenarios. It's going to be an awesome game just because of all the things that can go wrong or right, depending on who you're looking at.
I really wonder how they're going to deploy these bullpens. I think AJ Hinch has a much easier game. I think it is Tarik Skubal's to win or Tarik Skubal's to lose. I don't think when he gets into struggles, if he has a 2nd and 3rd situation, let's say he gives up a walk and then a double, 2nd and 3rd, that's when Tarik Skubal goes into strikeout mode. But AJ Hinch's not going to sit there and go, I think I'm going to take him out. I think Dan Wilson, if it's Kirby, if it's Castillo, whoever it is that starts, if one of his pitchers gets into trouble, I'm going right to it. So to me, how these bullpens are used, not just, oh, well, this is my best guy, I want to go, but hey, you know what? Javier Baez has faced, completely blanking on his name. Help me out. Who did Javier Baez face like 4 times?
Edward Bizardo.
Thank you.
He's faced him 4 times. 4 games, he's faced him 4 at-bats.
That's like, I was a career 209 hitter. If you put the nastiest pitch on a pitching machine and you say, Erik, I need you to get a hit on it, you know what? I'm probably going to look pretty stupid my first few at-bats, my first few pitches facing it. But if you keep throwing that pitch at me, you keep throwing it and putting it in the machine and you don't change it up at all, because that's what's happening when you face guys back-to-back days. Everything looks the same, and you're like, I remember this. Not even talking about the fact that the dude's exhausted. Not even talking about the fact that, some guys can and can't make adjustments on the mound. It's advantage hitter. I would be able to get a hit off of the nastiest pitch if you show it to me enough times. So it'll be interesting if that comes into Dan Wilson or AJ Hinch's mind. Like, he's seen him so many times. I saw the swings he had on him last time. Maybe we don't go to it. Maybe our lanes that are predetermined pregame may need to shift a little bit. And it's going to take a lot of balls for a manager to say, I get it. He's my best pitcher in this 6th inning spot. Just didn't like what I saw last time. I'm going to this guy, because if it doesn't work, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on your side.
Listen,
I have another.
Skubal might throw 150 pitches in this game. If he's on, he might throw 200 pitches.
It's his game.
And everyone you talk to on both sides, they know it. And his presence was looming over the whole game yesterday. And that's why, but listen, I'll be honest. I don't care who wins at all. So let's get that out there. But I will say this, and we said it on the broadcast. The Tigers offense did absolutely nothing. I mean, I told AJ Hinch, I saw AJ Hinch on the street last night, okay? I was walking and he pulled up in his car and he stopped me and he started yelling at me, I was like, gosh, who's this random crazy person yelling at me from their super nice car? And it was Hinch. And he's like, what'd you think? And I was like, man, y'all are down 3-0. I was booking my flight home. I'm like, you guys had nothing going. And then all of a sudden, 1 inning. I don't even know what happened. It was like Bryce Miller was dealing. They'd never scored a run off of him. And then Dingler hits the double. And then as soon as he hit that double, it was like they remembered how to hit again. I can't explain it. Because then the Mariners like, okay, we got Spire against Riley Green, who hadn't done anything the whole series. And Adam Wainwright said before we went on the air for the inning, he goes, Riley Green might go deep here, and he's probably going to go deep here, and then he's going to get hot as all fire, and watch out. Boom. He hits the homer, and then the wheels came off. And I can't explain it. I don't know what changed. It was literally nothing changed. It was like the Mariners pitching was dominating the offense. Whack. That hit by Dingler changed everything, and now Game 5 is a toss-up. But I can't explain it. I wish I could explain it. I don't know.
I have one question. It's a conspiracy theory thing, but we'll do it in the break because we want to let everyone know that Tiger Territory is available for you to check out. There are episodes almost daily coming out to cover what Detroit's been through so far in the postseason and beyond. Cody Stavenhagen, Kieran Steckley, Austin Jackson. We'll swing back and go to the Blue Jays advancing. Mike Wilner from the Toronto Star joining us next. FT is presented by Fox One. Josh Naylor made it very obvious that he wanted the Tigers to know that he was watching signs.
Oh my gosh.
AJ, what are your thoughts? You were great at picking that out. And do you think that pisses a team off? I mean, we've talked about it. That would piss me off. I know you don't need extra motivation, but just listen to Cam Schlittler in his first start against Boston. He literally said, I have extra motivation. People were pissing me off on social media. Do you think that Josh Naylor pissed off and lit up the Tigers?
I don't know what the hell Josh Naylor was doing, because everyone I talked to after the game was like, oh, that was fake. It was just fake. It was just fake. And he was going like this. But the only thing that gave it away is the next guy that got on second, Dom Canzone, did something also. And he went like this. And both times he did it, it was an off-speed pitch. So he made it like obvious too. So I know you have different signals with different hitters and different runners. I don't know what Naylor was doing. But, I mean, it's like, again, it goes back to what, Kratz and I have talked about this. You used to just get smoked if you did anything. Like, I remember I would just stand there and be like, I don't want to move because I don't want anyone to get hit, right? And you don't hit Naylor. You hit Suarez. And you say, that's for him acting like a fool out at second base and jumping around, right? You hit Cal Raleigh. And you say, tell Naylor to calm down if you don't want to get hit next time, right? And then that guy goes in the dugout. But that doesn't happen anymore. It's fine. That's the way they play. But again, does he have anything? I don't know. The only thing I thought was because it was a lefty, and I think it was Tyler Holton. The way he set, he could see. And then when the righty came in, Finnegan, he was set different, so they couldn't see the ball in his hand. That was the only thing I was thinking he was picking up, because Dingler was setting up late. He was setting up the same. So I don't know what the heck he was doing. It's just crazy when you see guys out there jumping around and waving their hand. Like, first of all, I would have been like, dude, stop. You're distracting me from trying to hit. Because there's all this junk going around out there, right? Like, whoa, they're doing like all kinds of dance moves and stuff. Like, just stand there and let me try to hit. Unless you're giving me something, calm down.
Trevor May said he thinks he really was picking up some off-speed, both of them, and they're looking like they're TikTok dancers. That would piss me off. I'm just throwing that out there. I feel like
I agree.
This little trend that's going on right now is Bush League. And if you're faking it, it's still Bush League in my mind. I think it's Bush League. You don't need to do that. Win the freaking ball game. I think they pissed the Tigers off. Just throwing that out there. Somebody should ask the question to the Tigers if they win this series.
If Scott's ever pitching against me, I'm definitely doing some of this, because that's an advantage. If it makes you mad, if it makes the Tigers mad, if it makes the Mariners mad, whoever's doing it, then you have an advantage if you're able to get under their skin a little bit.
Making many people mad often makes them better and more locked in.
Okay.
Toronto Star columnist Mike Wilner back on FT. Oh, how things have changed since we last spoke to you, Mike. How you doing? And what's your shock factor? If you go back to, let's go back to the off season, right? If you go from the off season to now, what's your shock factor? If I said, Mike, you'd be on foul territory on October 9th, talking about the Jays taking down the Yankees in 4 games to advance to the ALCS.
First of all, the shock factor for just being back on foul territory is pretty huge, because it's been a long time since you guys called me. But as far as the Jays being in the ALCS, look, I thought going into the season that it would be a season like 2022 or 23, where the Blue Jays were sort of a fringe wild card contender, probably the 6th or 7th best team in the American League, might sneak into the playoffs. And once you get in, things can happen. But obviously they hadn't made anything happen in the playoffs for a very long time. And then the season started, and they started off 12-8, playing really well, but then they lost, I think, 16 out of 20. And it was pretty plain to see that it didn't look like things were going to work. I wasn't impressed by the offseason. And in fact, you know what, looking back now, I continue to not be impressed by the offseason, because the players that they brought in, the big ones, Anthony Santander, Andres Jimenez, Jimmy Garcia, Max Scherzer, didn't really contribute to the Blue Jays having the 94-win season and finishing in first place. Jeff Hoffman did with 33 saves. That was pretty terrific, but he was also second league in blown saves, and he led the league in home runs allowed by relievers. So, it felt like to me, until they got Santander, that they were tripling down on this pitching and defense thing and trying to prove that you can win a game 0-0. Then they got Santander, a little bit of power, but he wound up missing 4 months. So I think it's reasonable to say that nobody saw this coming, and especially first week of May, nobody saw this coming. But credit to them. They've become a really, really good team with serious contributions from 1 through 26. They were the second hardest team in the league to strike out, and they led the major leagues in batting average and on-base percentage. That's tough to beat.
For sure.
Kratz said this earlier. They out-baseball them. And what you just said kind of is what they do. They're 1 through 26. Every guy contributes, no matter who it is or what they're doing. And I agree. I mean, they just out-baseballed the Yankees, and they have they have a pretty, I'm not going to say easy path, but they have a path to not only get to the World Series for the first time in forever, but to win it because of really good starting pitching, really good defense, timely hitting, and a bullpen I think is better than people give them credit for, even though I know they've taken their lumps. But I just think this is a complete roster. And for me, it's the most complete roster right now in the American League.
I think it is. And I don't even know that you have to say right now, the Blue Jays are the top seed in the American League. They earned that number 1 spot. And I understand. I don't know quite why, maybe because they finished in last place last year, maybe because they really have been an afterthought around Major League Baseball, except for 2015 and 16 for about 3 decades. But they're the top seed. They're the number 1 team in the American League. They have the best record in the league, so they should have the path to go into the World Series. And there's no question that Seattle and Detroit going to a Game 5 helps them out a lot, because it takes Tarek Skubal and Logan Gilbert out of the equation until Game 3, regardless of which team they face. And they'll be playing a team that has to have done 2 cross-country flights in 3 days. And I know how well big league teams travel, but it's still a pain to do a couple of 6-hour flights in the space of 72 hours. So, yeah, they definitely, AJ, out-baseballed the New York Yankees. And I have to agree with Buck Martinez, one of our broadcasters here. The Yankees just aren't a very good baseball team. They won 94 games and it was great, but if they're not hitting home runs, they're not going to beat you. And the fact that the Blue Jays were able to so overwhelm their starting pitching until Cam Schlittler, who was fine, nothing special, he gave up 4 runs, but fine. Max Fried, Luis Gil, and Carlos Rodon, none of them got an out in the 4th inning. And it's just because the Blue Jays wore them down. Gil, you can do that to. Fried and Rodon, you're not supposed to be able to do it to. But the Blue Jays have worn down good starting pitching all year by not striking out and having extended. Anthony Santander had an 11-pitch flyout last night. It's a good baseball team. They take care of the ball. They have tons of people on base, so a big hit's bound to happen sooner or later. And they do a lot of things that the Yankees don't, which is why they went 11-6 against them this year.
Was there some angst in this series between the two teams? Because I get it. When the series is over, it's a big series. You're playing your division rival, but before the series started, you saw George Springer say, "Oh, why don't they just give give the Yankees the division. And then after Hoffman closed the game out and struck out Bellinger, you saw him look over, yell at their dugout, shoo him away. You heard what John Schneider said, play his comments after the game. And I get it, to the spoils go the winner goes the spoils, but was there extra angst because it was the Yankees or because it was a division rival?
I think that extra emotion was in there more because it was the Yankees and what they, I don't know if it's what they represent, but I've called it like manifest destiny. It's like people simply believe that because the Yankees are the Yankees, they have earned this level of respect and deference. And it's just not the case. I mean, the Yankees and their front office and the fan base sort of walks around as though, why would you even think you're going to beat us? Like what, like the Yankees were talking, and a lot of people were talking like the Yankees were the favorites in this series. Again, despite the fact that the Jays had won the season series with them, embarrassed them at Rogers Center. They went 8-1 against them in Toronto this year and were the higher seed, didn't have to play in the first round. And yet, now I think I saw on The Athletic, 92% of the people were predicting that their reporters were predicting the Yankees would win this series. The Yankees sort of carry themselves like, well, we're going to win and you're just going to have to deal with that. And so I don't have a problem with pushing back on that, especially when it's not deserved. And it certainly wasn't deserved this year. And it did feel like, you talked about George Springer saying they might as well just give it to New York. There were 3 calls in the last week and a half of the season, 2 on replay, and the Springer, what should have been a 2-run double down the line that was called foul, that was not reviewable. 3 plays that went horribly against the Blue Jays. A fan interference call in Tampa, a Dalton Varsho trap call on a ball he very clearly caught, but replay couldn't definitively determine that the ball might not have brushed against the top of a blade of grass while it was in his glove before he picked his glove up. People were starting to think that the screws were being turned against the Jays. I've always thought, look, if Major League Baseball didn't want the Blue Jays to win the division this year, they never would have gotten anywhere close to 94 wins. They would have been an 83-win team that didn't make the playoffs, and the tinfoil hat stuff would have started a lot sooner. But there were some heightened emotions at the time, and I believe that that anytime you have the chance to give it to the New York Yankees, you absolutely have to do it because they're the New York Yankees. They're the evil empire.
All right, moving forward.
Before you do, Kratzy, I have to say this one thing because I watched the segment before, and you were talking about how you were a 207 hitter and wouldn't have been able to get a hit. And I still remember the double in the 9th inning you hit off Aroldis Chapman in Cincinnati to win a game for the Jays. So give yourself a little bit of credit.
Hey, blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, but what a memory. That's like 2014. Yeah.
That was a big moment.
It was a big moment. Okay, appreciate it. Now I forget my question. No. Is the fact that they had to run a bullpen game, and is the fact that they had Chris Bassett and Max Scherzer not on the roster a detriment moving forward? Is it something that they have to? And I know the bullpen game went really well, but holy crap. 7th inning, I think the Yankees had the tying run up. Had that game gotten tied up, then you're going to the next day's starter in Gausman, Trey Savage. Is that a detriment for the Blue Jays moving forward?
Yeah, it was 2 out in the 8th inning when the Yankees got the tying run to the plate. And after the walk to load the bases, Jeff Hoffman got a first pitch out, and that's when it got really, really tight. But you're right. If the Yankees tie the game, you're going to Gausman or Savage, and then your hands are pretty tied for Game 5. I think I thought going into the series, only carrying 3 starters was another one of these maybe too cute moves by the front office. But the truth is, Chris Bassett finished the season on the injured list. He had a back problem, and they didn't think that he was going to be ready to help them in this series. He probably is back on the roster for the ALCS. And Max Scherzer, he's going to the Hall of Fame. He's one of the greatest pitchers of all time. He has been such a big help around here, especially those 6 weeks in July and August where he was so good. But Max Scherzer, since the middle of August, has pitched 25 innings and given up 25 runs. And he's got an ERA of over 12 in the first inning. So I'm not sure, I know this is like blasphemy, but I don't think he earned a spot on the playoff roster, much like Mark Burley wasn't on the playoff roster for the Jays in 2015. But I do think having the way the days off go in the best of 5 lent more credence to using a bullpen game, because you knew you were going to be able to take it easy on the relievers in game 3. You hoped for a longer start from Shane Bieber and didn't get it, but they made sure that nobody threw more than 20 pitches out of the bullpen in game 3, and an off day before that and an off day after game 4, you can do it. But if you want to run a bullpen game in the ALCS, you're doing it where there's a span of 3 games with no off day, and it makes it a lot tougher because you're going to wear out your bullpen for game 5 or in game 3, and that's an issue. I think we're going to see Chris Bassett back on the playoff roster in the next round.
All right, a couple things what you just said, Mike. One, not having Mark Burley on the playoff roster is blasphemy, okay? I don't know what he did, but, I mean, he was only throwing 83 in 2005, and he pitched fine, so I'm sure he was maybe throwing 82, so he would have been fine. So let's also, establish that. And yeah, Max, you didn't hear anything from Max. Max understood why. These guys, they get it. They understand. But my question is are we going to see Bo? Are we going to see Bo Bichette? I know he's been jogging, but there's a big difference between jogging and playing shortstop in the ALCS against the other best team in the American League.
We're definitely not going to see Bo Bichette playing shortstop, I think. But I think we may see Bo Bichette as a DH. In the ALCS. He spoke after the game last night in New York, and he said that he's made some huge strides in the past few days, but he still has to be able to run the bases, and he's got 3 days to get better. And, maybe he's got 6, because if I'm the Blue Jays and I think Bo's going to be ready for game 3, I'm putting him on the roster if he's going to be ready for game 3, which is Tuesday. Game 1 Sunday will be 5 weeks exactly since he got hurt, sliding into Austin Wells' shin guard and sort of jamming up his knee and straining it. And these injuries are like 4 to 6 week injuries usually. But to have him out there playing shortstop, there is 0 chance of that happening before the World Series if they get there, and maybe not even in the World Series. But I would not be surprised if he's on the roster as a DH only, and that might cost Santander a spot.
That's a good point.
Decisions.
Yeah, that's a tough call. Yeah,
I don't think it's a tough call, honestly. Santander has, I think, 3 hits since coming back. He missed most of the last 4 months of the season, and to be able to ask a guy to be who you are once you do that, it doesn't work for me. It was 1 for 10 with 6 strikeouts in the regular season, and I think had 2 or 3 hits in this ALCS. He's a poor defensive outfielder. You should be able to put George Springer out there, and to have Bo's bat back. He's missed a month, but his swing's a little bit different than Santander's, and Tony Tater's missed a lot of time and really hasn't done. He's had some great at bats since he's gotten back, but they haven't resulted in any hits.
Yeah. Well, the game 3, what was that? The 2-run line
that was
drive,
a big hit.
2-strike single. That was big. Yeah. I know they lost the game, but that was big for them. But that is fair. That is fair. It's been a tough year for him, and I think everyone would agree. If Bo can hit, they will take that bat, because he also, I think, has the clutch gene, which we could spend an hour talking about alone. Mike, this was awesome, man. We will invite you back sooner, especially if these Blue Jays keep doing their thing, okay?
All right. Always a pleasure to be here, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. You're the man. Appreciate you. Mike Wilner talking Blue Jays as they advance to the ALCS. BetMGM Locks. Oh, we are frozen. The playoffs are tough. I often struggle in the playoffs. Like, I will be the first to raise my hand and say, I think all 3 years of FT I've finished in the green and had playoff red. So I lost a few in a row. I won a few in a row. We all lost yesterday. It is tough. Sometimes you just have to think about what's going to happen. Use your brain based on how much baseball you watch and then pick the opposite. Just like AJ was saying. You think, oh, Scooble, nope, they're going to beat him, but they're going to win the other games. So with that being said, AJ, what do you have for tonight with 2 games to choose from?
Well, I'm going exactly with what you said. So I'm going opposite. You would think with Freddie Peralta and Matt Boyd, it would be a low-scoring game in Chicago, but I'm going over 7 in that game, and then I'm going over 5.5 punch-outs for Tyler Glasnow because you guys talked me into it because you said there's going to be shadows and nobody can hit and the curveball's the hardest pitch to hit and all blah, blah, blah. So it's your fault if I lose, guys. And that gets me to plus 212. So I feel like that's pretty good, and that'll get me back in the positives again because, not only did I win the regular season, but I'm going to win the postseason too.
Well, I think what you just said has to do with Kratz's pick too.
It is. I changed my pick because of what you said, AJ. I'm going Christopher Sanchez over 5.5 strikeouts, only because AJ said exactly what he said. I changed it mid-show, and man, does it feel good to put 105 down to win 100.
Nice. Well, we're all picking on that game. I mean, AJ's technically picking both, but for me, I'll go Dodgers.
You only got you only got 2 choices, Scott. So
no, I know, but yes, we all are in on the Phillies Dodgers game. So for me, I'm going with the Dodgers money line minus 130, which is right at my limit of where I'll go on a money line play. Why? Because I looked on paper like, oh, Sanchez pitched pretty well last time around. Phillies on the road. Yep, the Dodgers will win. They'll adjust and they'll win. Go against
Scott,
what I'm really
Scott,
thinking.
you said it yourself. You don't have the clutch gene. So playoffs aren't for you. You're a regular season player, Scott. It's cool. You don't have a clutch gene.
I think you're right. I don't have a clutch gene. When it comes to betting in the postseason, I do not have it. So what's the way to overcome that? In betting,
don't be scared.
You can fade yourself, and then you can be clutch. In the weeds, this is our opportunity to talk about Matthew Boyd and Freddie Peralta matching up in Game 4 in this pitcher's ballpark. Yes, it's a pitcher's park these days. Parks change, and Wrigley Field has taken center stage. The friendly confines are friendly for pitchers. If you look at smart analytical factors like extra distance that a ballpark provides according to StatCast based on elements that don't include the temperature. I'm not making that part up. Last year, Wrigley Field ranked 29th. I'm not making that up. I'm not even smart enough to put that sentence together without reading it. Okay. I'm Ron Burgundy. Anyway, this year, it still ranked in the top 5 in terms of that distance factor. So still very, very difficult. Balls not traveling as far as they would in other spots. Winds swirling. People like the Cubs heads groundkeeper can't figure it out. Can you guys figure it out?
I have an idea. I do actually have it. This is legit. Besides global warming, which, global warming has changed the wind patterns in Chicago because, Cal farted in New Mexico the other day. And so the wind changed. But anyways, I kid. But you know what I honestly think it is? I think it's the scoreboards they put up and the way they've constructed all the stuff around it. It was kind of an open air stadium in the outfield. There was no scoreboards and there was no anything to block the wind. So the wind could just rip through there, either in or out. And now, honestly, I think what happens is even if the wind's blowing out, it hits those giant scoreboards and it turns it. So it makes it, even though it seems like, oh man, the wind's blowing out, it still hits those scoreboards and turns it back in. And then when it's blowing in, it just blows in and it doesn't turn it, it doesn't affect it as much. So I think honestly, in this, I could be way off on this, which, probably am. But I just think it's those giant scoreboards they put in. and all the buildings, everything they put around it has kind of boxed it in. And, it kind of gets that effect where even if it's blown out, it still hits it. And if you get it over the scoreboards, it'll help you. But if you hit it under those giant, and those scoreboards are gigantic, it probably kills it a little bit. Probably wrong, but it's my theory.
And Jesse Rogers wrote the article, by the way, from ESPN, our buddy. So props to him. But Kratz, if AJ's theory is true, then maybe they need to create something that bounces it back out.
But only on Thursdays when the sun is shining through some cumulonimbus clouds. Like, that is the most random. Why on earth is a groundskeeper telling me how the ball is traveling? He don't do nothing in the air. He's making sure the ground is wet, making sure the grass is green and the ivy is trimmed. Like, this kind of stuff happens all the time. Look, they added the humidor to all stadiums in different levels. When you put up a massive scoreboard and take away from what I think was the cool aesthetics of Wrigley Field, and then you add another massive scoreboard when you only had something in center field, yes, it's going to change. Like where was it? Ballpark in Arlington, where the Rangers used to play. That used to be just an absolute launching pad. They put suites in the back, which meant they glassed up that area, and then all of a sudden wind wasn't blowing through anymore, and it just became a regular ballpark. Like, these are major renovations that can change the way the ball travels.
True. And a
I'm
cow
not smart
farted
enough
too.
for any of this, so I'm just like.
And don't forget, there was a cow in Argentina that farted, so we're worried about that too.
I've been hearing about that since I was born. Weather feels the same to me. Sorry about it. Feels the same to me. I mean, maybe people are just eating more beans. I don't know.
I don't know. We should ask Eric Chavez when he comes on if he thought I used to love Wrigley, man. Man, listen, when I went to Wrigley and the wind was blowing out, oh my gosh, it was like just touch it, boys. There were days you'd go in, especially driving up there, you look at the water. If the water was flat, the wind was blowing in. If the water was rough, the wind was blowing out. And you're like, oh, be wavy today because I'm going to go deep for sure. Just touch it.
Well, promise me this. We can ask Erik, but let's make it like the 10th question because I have some other things to get to with him first. So we'll be right back with Eric Chavez. Foul Territory is presented by Fox One. We're talking to former Mets hitting coach Eric Chavez and former big leaguer, great player, talking to us in like 2 minutes. But I just want to continue on the Cubs Brewers series for a moment here because that one fires up again tonight. First time in that series they're playing back-to-back games, which is crazy. But what are you guys thinking for Game 4? Matt Boyd on normal rest. That makes more sense. Freddie Peralta, Erik has been the ace for the Brew Crew. They almost came back, but they fell just short. And most of the action has been early in these games. What do you think happens?
I think the Brewers take them. I think Freddie Peralta says, we're not going back to Milwaukee as much as I like that place. He wants to beat the Cubs in Wrigley. And I think it's a case that the Cubs, I don't understand why the Cubs all of a sudden are like looking for one swing and one spot. And then it's just like, I mean, Michael Busch, he's been nails. But then the rest of the game, it's like they're scoring in one inning, and then they're just letting the Brewers climb back into it. They need to get ahead. They need to take that lead and continue to add to that lead, and they haven't been able to.
Credit to the Brewers pitching, though, too. They've given up some runs early, and then they've really settled down. And the Brewers have actually just controlled this series. I mean, they lost yesterday, clearly. I know that, but I just feel like they're in much more control of this series the way they're dictating to the Cubs who they want to pitch, when they want to pitch him. And the Cubs are kind of playing catch up. And that's always kind of been Craig Counsell's thing. It's used ahead of the game, right? With the pitching stuff. So I don't know. It's been a fun series to watch because if you like runs and you like homers and you like all those things and people, redemption stories with Andrew Vaughn hitting that homer in the first game and all those things. Or the second game, sorry. I mean, it's been a fun series to watch, but I think you're right. I think Freddie P steps up tonight and says, bye-bye, Cubbies. Time to go home.
Yeah, Quinn Priester was a little rattled. And then Murph did the classic, hey, we're going to need you later in the month. So keep your head up. And then they almost came back and swept them. But
they should have. I mean, they should have. They had
Yeah.
runners. They had a million base runners. They just left a million guys on base, but they had chances. Don't think the Brewers didn't have chances to win that game yesterday. They had all kinds of chances.
That's why I watched that game and I'm like, oh man, the Brewers look like a much better team right now. But we'll see what happens. Maybe the Cubs pull this off, Boyd recovers, and they flip it. Eric Chavez is here, 6-time Gold Glover, by the way. Very, very illustrious big league career. Just was the hitting coach for the Mets, and they basically cleared house with most of their coaching staff. Eric, first off, great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us. You have some people that know you better than I do who are big fans of you. How you doing?
Bronny, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's taking you guys a long time to get me on here, AJ. What the heck?
Dude, what do you want me to say, bro? If you were in Moneyball and they would have made a terrible movie about you, then we would have had you on sooner. But, Scott Hatteberg hasn't been on either. So let's be honest. I mean, that movie, if they would have made the Moneyball movie about Eric Chavez and how he won Gold Gloves and hit a ball off Joe Mays in that series that went 900 feet, but it didn't even mention you. So you know what? You had to wait your turn.
We were so close. The players were so close to being in that movie. There was, I don't know if it was the Players Association or MLB, couldn't settle on a dollar value, but I would have done that thing for free and been in that movie. No questions asked. But yeah, that would have been cool. It's a great movie. Did you hear David Justice's interview the other day? And they asked him how real was it? He goes, not at all. The problem is they got the perspective of Billy Beane, but they didn't ask any of the players what went down. So it was kind of a one-sided opinion on that movie.
AJ, you know what? Go ahead for the first couple minutes, then we'll get into some other
because I got to
things.
leave. I got to leave. I got to fly to Seattle.
AJ has a flight, so get your questions in on Moneyball and all that, and then we can get to the rest.
Yeah, then we'll go to other things. But yeah, here's my thing on Moneyball. You know what they should have done? They should have made a movie about the Minnesota Twins that year. You know what? I'm sorry, Xavi. I love you to death. And, we became buddies. We went to Japan after that year. But, we ended the winning streak. We ended the season. And I didn't even get credit. Like, they made some bad-looking fella, me, as a catcher, instead of me. They could have called me, and I would have jumped up and down on Oakland Coliseum again. It would have been a cool movie. But, no, they made that movie about y'all.
AJ, you killed us. You absolutely – You talk about getting hits and home runs at the right time in a ball game. Oh my God, AJ, you killed us. Honestly, but here's the deal. I think they should have made a movie about Theo Epstein, the fact of what he did in Boston and Chicago, because everything we do is about winning the World Series, and what Theo has done with those two organizations, absolutely tremendous. I felt like if we're going to do a movie, we should have done it about him.
It's true. I mean, AJ he's a one-man wrecking machine. He's still crushing that A's team because he'll bring this up to Marc Mulder's been on the show good a couple times. It's a good point.
They were so good, dude. They were so good, though. I mean, listen, you had to go into the Coliseum. You got Hudson, Mulder, Zito, okay? And then you had Koch in the back end. And then you had, at one time they had Giambi, Tejada, Xavi in the middle of the lineup. Jermaine Dye. Ramon Hernandez, who was very underrated as a player. I'm going to tell you that right now as a catcher and a player.
Very good.
That team was sick, dude. And you went in there, and every time we went in there, we'd lose. We'd get walked off at least once a series. It was like, all right, someone's going to hit a homer, walk us off, and lose a ball in the sun, whatever it was. It was incredible. And that team was unbelievable. To the fact that team never won still blows my mind. I'm sorry.
Hurts.
It blows my mind.
It still hurts too. Trust me, it hurts because we felt that way too. But it's not. I said this yesterday. It's not always the best team that wins. It's a team that's playing the best. So that's why these playoffs, like, you just never know. Like, yeah, they're on paper. There's some really big names and some good teams, but it's about getting hot at the right moment and having things go your way and having a little luck along the way.
All right, so let's get to the 2025 season here. Obviously, for the Mets, it ended up in turbulence. So tell us first, what happened at the finish line with the team. We can ask about your spot too, but what happened? I mean, it's really not the finish line. It was over a pretty long stretch. You could call it a slow burn where the start was so electric and then the team ran out of gas.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a situation like this, there's a lot that goes wrong. You're not going to be able to just pinpoint one thing. I think first and foremost, I think the players and uniform personnel have to take the brunt of it. We felt like we had enough talent. It may have not have been, like the best equipped, balanced team. But as far as talent to get you to the playoffs, we felt like we had enough. So from a uniform personnel, we failed. To give you kind of more of an in-depth look of what happened, we just couldn't come together collectively as a group. The pitchers did really well in the first 2 months. The hitters were absent. The hitters got hot. The pitchers were absent. And then the defense kind of fell short towards the post-All-Star break. So we just never came together, though we spent a lot of money. We had a lot of headlines. This game, which is why we all love baseball, you're not going to be able to just buy a World Series. Like, a lot of things have to go right. You got to develop. You got to have young players. You got to draft well. You got to make good acquisitions at the All-Star break. You got to make sure you don't trade the wrong guy to the wrong team. And everything we tried to do just kind of went wrong. But the players in the uniform and the staff in uniform have to take the brunt of that. And we definitely felt like we let the city down, and we definitely let the owner down. I mean, I have to speak volumes about the owner. Obviously I came up in Oakland, and, money wasn't thrown around at all. But for Mr. Cohen and his wife, Alex Cohen, tremendous owners. I had a blast there for 4 years. They treated the families like royalty. The food there, the staff there, the hotels, the travel, everything was first class. So to Mr. Cohen and Alex Cohen, I want to say thank you. They do a tremendous job there. And it's, any free agent, moving forward, it's a good place to be. There's good people that work there. And, for them, hopefully they can win a World Series pretty soon.
As we keep going here, one little tech thing. Can you take the headphones out? We're hearing a little crackle, so we're going to give it a shot. If you can take them out, do we want them unplugged maybe too, just in case? Yes. Okay, cool. All right, Kratz, go for it.
Can you hear them now? Because I'm not hearing them.
Oh. Nope.
No, can't hear them.
Maybe we need the headphones. Old school headphones, bro. Look at me go. Look at us go. Come on, we're old. We're old.
The wired
okay.
headphones.
We're old people, dude. We need the wires.
Is he back?
Is that better now? Can you hear us?
No,
I can't
we
hear
lost
you.
him.
Jeez, he was good too. He was
We're on the
rocking.
fly.
Oh, they
on
said
the
maybe
fly.
muted himself. You have yourself muted, they said. Is there a mute button on your computer, tablet? No? Like on the screen you're looking at, there's not a little microphone button? No. Okay.
We'll figure it out.
We're going to work on fixing it.
There was a crackle.
Oh, they said maybe re-sign in. So do a little refresh. Yeah, there was a slight crackle. This stuff happens.
Crackle.
He's going to call back.
That is an underrated good candy. Crackle, by the way.
AJ, do you know Crackle?
I do. It's in the Hershey's bag of tricks.
Yes.
All the mixed bag. It's like with
All
Mr. Goodbar and the Hershey's, the little teeny ones. But if you're going to go
yellow
Crackle,
one?
yes, you might as well go $100,000.
Am I back? Can you guys hear me?
He's back.
Yes.
All right.
And you
Kratz,
sound-
take it away.
And you sound delicious. All right. So when you talked about the hitters and the pitchers, beginning of the year, the pitchers were hot.
Yep.
After that, the hitters were hot, the pitchers were not. Can you talk about that as a coach, that angst in the clubhouse, in the sense of like you're working with the hitters all day, flipping, talking to them, check out the iPad, and they're like, oh, man, we just scored 4. We're down 5-4 right now. Like, can you talk about that? And was that present? And how do you stop that to be able to move on and play together collectively as a group?
No, not at all. I mean, I can honestly say this, like the group of guys that we had in that room were true professionals. One of the things they always talked about in that clubhouse was having each other's back through thick and thin and good times and bad times. I never heard any of those things. The pitchers weren't complaining. about the hitters early in the year. And then when the pitchers struggled, I think the hitters were like, yeah, they picked us up for 2 months. We got to get it going. So it was a good clubhouse in that standpoint. I actually apologized in the beginning of the year to Hefner, our pitching coach. I was like, sorry, Hef, these guys will get going here pretty soon. And it's just one of those things, baseball is a funny game. You could spend money, you can get all the good players you want, but clubhouse camaraderie. The year before we had Iglesias and JD Martinez that kind of unified that clubhouse. You have to organically make those things happen. You can't just force them into a clubhouse. So those things have to happen organically. And I think with those two personalities, it was a great blend. And for whatever reason this year, though things were bad, we always felt like we were going to be able to kind of turn the switch on and get going. And it just never really happened. I feel bad for it. Like I said, Stearns made a lot of acquisitions for us at the break, and none of them really worked out that well. And we had a lot of injuries, like most teams do. But no matter what, we still feel like we had enough talent. We just could not get over the hump. We had moments of greatness where we'd go on a tear for about 2 weeks, and then we'd lose 8, 9 in a row. And we did that about 3 or 4 times this year. And it's just, you can't go through this type of losing streak. So yeah, it was unfortunate situation. I'm pulling for them. I love a lot of guys in this clubhouse, but they held it together. There was never no blame game. They did a really good job of keeping that under wraps and supporting each other through the season.
Xavi, what was Mendy like during this whole thing? I mean, we've had him
Great.
on here all the time, and he's fabulous. I mean, he came on. You guys were in the heat of it. Was he the same in the clubhouse every day? Because he seems like he never changes. He's always positive. No. He's always got everyone's back, and he believes.
Yeah, he was great. I think you could tell that he was paying attention to Boone all those years in New York. Because Boone gets hit hard. I absolutely love Boone. I was going to go work for the Yankees about 4 years back before I went with the Mets. And it was all I wanted to do was work with Boone because I knew the person, the personality, the consistency. And you could see all those traits that Carlos brought with him, and you could see why they chose Carlos to be the manager here. He's had a really tough go. Injuries and some of the pitching stuff, some of the highs and lows. It's been a really two difficult years for him. I know last year we went on that run, but we started the season I think 0-5, 0-6 to start out his managerial career. We blew a lot of saves last year. He had to manage a bullpen. Our starters, they weren't going very deep. I think we used the most pitchers or relievers in the history of the game where we're shuffling in and out pitchers throughout the whole year. So he had to manage all this. And for this to be his first 2 years, I think he did a tremendous job. And I think he's got a tremendous future being a manager in this game.
What if you guys had gotten in? The what if? I mean, we're talking about this like you guys, a ton of coaches got axed and there's no playoff games. It's a big disappointment when you spend this much money. One game is all it would have taken. What if you guys had gotten in? What kind of path would it have taken for you guys? Because to me, looking at the pitching staff, it would have had to be some absolute pixie dust magic.
Yep. I can answer this honestly. Not enough. I think it would have been kind of scary because offensively, we were able to go on some tears and score some 8-9 runs. But when you're facing some of these pitchers that are in the playoffs, it's just not sustainable. To me, it's not an offensive league anymore. The pitchers are dominating. The stuff is too good. I heard you guys talking about the Brewers and Cubs and the Brewers or the Cubs not adding on runs. Like it's just not that easy. The mop-up guys that are coming in the 5th inning are throwing 100 with a 93-mile-an-hour slider. It's a very difficult game to be, to score runs. And I like what the Brewers and the Cubs have done with the pitching being so elite. This is the one thing. This is the only kind of trump card the offense has is to have some speed and to have guys that put contact on the baseball consistently. Now, if that comes with some homers, you can kind of see, even the Padres, somehow, bunting was a big no-no, and now it's become sexy again. Because I think people are realizing how hard it is to score runs, and runs are at a premium. Defense is at a premium. Running bases is at a premium. outfield plays at a premium. Like everything offensively to score runs is at a premium. And it's not that easy to do. I mean, these pitchers, a couple of years ago when I first got into this, guys were throwing extremely hard, but I didn't see a whole lot of control. Now it's like 100 dotted down and away at the corner. And I'm watching video, and it's pretty much what I do. And, obviously I go over the at-bats with these guys, and I'm like, you guys had nothing to hit that at-bat. Like, it's hard. Usually pitchers leave something over the middle of the plate, and they're dotting, right? And they know every detail about the hitter. They know where he hits it, how hard he hits it. They know the weaknesses. They know his tendencies. Everything about this game is really focused for the pitching. I mean, we had defenses like, we'd hit balls and the defense would be playing in the perfect position. And it's just something, it's just like, Jeremy Barnes and I, the old hitting coach with the Mets, we used to talk about this. Like, we looked at our batting profile, and a lot of the time you're just kind of like hoping the ball finds grass, right? And there's a little luck factor to that. Like, our batting profile was extremely good. Juan didn't have the best first 2 months. Every out Juan made was like 109 miles an hour. He had the worst luck of any hitter in the big leagues. And he was smashing balls, but the defense was right there. But, a lot of the times, like, you're really at the mercy of the ball just finding grass. And, the defense's positioning has gotten so good. The pitching's gotten so good. The one thing I did notice this year, more than any other year, where pitchers they have two fastballs now. They have the four-seam right at the top, and they have a two-seam. So now, a guy like Juan, who covers the four-seam at the top, we had all our numbers. Like, if they had a two-seam, we knew Juan was going to get two seams, even though the four-seam was probably the better pitch for the pitcher. Juan did so well against those, but they had something to attack him with now. So, to me, it's a defensive game, and the way the Brewers and the Cubs have built their team. You talk about being consistent and competitive. Maybe not the sexiest offenses, but what a tremendous job they've done. I think this is how you're going to have to combat the pitching, because the pitching's not going anywhere. You look at Schlittler throwing 100 with a 94. Like I'm going, as a hitter, I'm going, holy. I'm thinking the radar guns are wrong. Like, it's got to be wrong. Like, it's guys are throwing 104 with a 97 mile an hour slider. Like, it's just like, how is the human body even capable of doing that? But to me, it's a pitching and defense game now. And I think I think GMs are going to have to act accordingly. And if you've got a position player who can do both, those guys are always at a premium. But defense and speed are going to come back into play. And as we've seen early in these playoffs, like, bunts they're a big thing, and it's coming back.
All right, I want to hit on one specific person. Obviously, it's catcher's show. AJ left. He said, "You're the man," but he had to get on a flight. So
yep.
I talk about catching. The Mets don't make the playoffs. I talk about Francisco Alvarez. This is a guy that I think his energy behind the dish is infectious. You saw in the playoffs last year. He got sent down to AAA when he was struggling. Some of it was his defense. But when he came back, he was awesome. And I always think sometimes AAA can, like, guys get sent down to AAA, and it can be a detriment and it can be eyewash. Very rarely is it actual a thing. Did you see a difference when he came back, just in his overall Francisco Alvarez being the man for this team?
Yeah, for sure. And I love Alvy. I've told him 2 years ago, I think he hit 25 homers, and you looked at his batting profile, and there were some other things that weren't so sexy about it, but everybody falls in love with homers. Oh, 25 homers, this is great. And I kind of challenged him to be a complete hitter. And I told him, I said, you could be the best offensive catcher in this league, right? If you work on the right things. His defense at that time was tremendous. His throwing was really good. This offseason he revamped his swing. Players are always looking to get better. They're always looking for that next great thing. The way I view things as getting better is to be more consistent. Like, you are who you are as a player. All of us have God-given abilities, and you have to tap into those. I think what's wrong, kind of offensively is the social media hitting coach and the gurus that are out there. they're selling you something. There's this, hey, I got this one thing that'll make you a great hitter. And I don't view it like that. Hitting is way too hard. Each player has his own tool set, his own strengths, his own weaknesses, and you kind of have to work with that player in his realm of what he can do and can't do. I'm from the hitting side, I'm not a hitting guru. I don't have the magic pill to make you a great hitter. But what I do is I try to work with you. I try to get inside your mindset. I try to work with, let's talk about an approach and, make little adjustments as we go. But I don't have a magic pill to turn somebody into a 50 home run guy. I've never been a salesman like that. Hitting's too hard. I have too much respect for this league and the pitching. I did it for a really long time, and I knew how hard it was. And Albie's it. He's got all the tool set. He can catch. He got off to with this swing this spring training. He was starting to feel it kind of, he struggled, then he started to feel it, and then he had a hand injury, and he had a couple injuries through the season, and he just wasn't able to get it right. But then when they sent him down this last time, he got his head right. He was focused on the right things at the plate. He came back and he was the Alvarez we all think he can be. Now the tool set is there. Now it's just about repeating it and bringing your tool set to the game every single day. But I really do firmly believe if he puts it all together, he could be the best catcher in the league, but definitely the best offensive catcher in the league.
You're right at that time when you should think hitting wasn't hard anymore. Like I always say, 10 years after somebody retires, they're like, oh, I have all the answers. So I'm so glad to hear that hitting is really hard because you were really good. I sucked, and I knew that hitting was really hard. But my question for you mentioned Juan Soto. Juan Soto almost was 40-40. People really didn't even talk about it. Mm-hmm. One of the things against Juan, and as a hitting coach, did you ever have this conversation, is he doesn't chase out of the zone. When you have a guy in the middle of your lineup, can he get 130 stakes if he never chases out of the zone or he just passes the baton? I get it. In the long term of a season, like he's going to have the best numbers possible. Could he be a guy to chase out of the zone, or is that something you would never, ever tell an elite superstar to do because that's his superpower?
Really, Kratzy, really good question. I think there were times when, and I'll just be honest, I think there were times, where myself and I even talked to Carlos was, if we could just kind of get him to swing, maybe 0-0 or some pitches that he could do damage on early in the counts. But Juan is he is a precision hitter. I wouldn't get him out of his comfort zone at all. The one thing I would say, if you want to think outside the box and get creative, Shohei Ohtani's, along with Judgy and Cal Riley, the three best hitters in the game. Juan's up there. Shohei leads off. Juan is so good at getting on base. He's so selective. There are times when things are going and you're in the middle of the lineup, you're 3, 4, 5, like Pete Alonso, like we know Pete's going to chase, Pete's going to do damage. I think that you're kind of referencing driving in runs at Juan could drive in 140. But instead of doing that, where you're telling him to get out of his comfort zone, slide him in the leadoff spot. He steals bases. He gets on base at a 40% clip. Don't have him get out of his comfort zone of what he likes to do, but you can be just as dynamic in the leadoff spot. If you look at Shohei and what he's done without changing the player too much, just changing where he hits in the batting lineup. Like it's, I know people, they're like, wherever you hit shouldn't really matter, but it really does matter. Like when we moved Lindor from the third slot into the leadoff slot where he's really comfortable, and he's really comfortable at the 1 or the 2 slot. Where a player hits does matter sometimes. Like there's some, there's an emotional tie to where you're at in the lineup, and, not everybody can hit 3, 4, 5 in the lineup, and you have to have the right animals to do that. But, I think with Juan's profile, and if you want to get creative and think out of the box, I think about leading him off.
I like it. All right. Last one. I want to get to the coaching staff in particular. Number one, and I know you've mentioned this before, thoughts on the way that the hitting coach setup was and how it should look differently for a team. And two, Jeremy Hefner getting let go. I mean, I follow the Mets very closely. He was looked at as a top 3 pitching coach, pitching whisperer, the whole deal. So do you think that it was warranted?
No, I don't think any of the coaches should have been fired, to be honest with you. But understanding the nature of the beast and how things work, weeks prior to this, I knew this was coming. Is it fair? No. But when you sign up for this job, it's kind of what comes with it. You're in a big market like New York. The owner just spent $800 million. Your team better make some noise, right? Not even making the playoffs isn't even good enough. Like, you better get deep and you better at least make it to the World Series. And so I saw this coming. No, it's not fair. The coaching staff we had was unbelievable. It's some of the guys that were there with me for the last 3 or 4 years. Things just didn't go our way. There's a lot of injuries, a lot of acquisitions that we had that didn't really pan out. But the coaching staff was steadfast. Like, I'll go to bat for these guys any day. Matter of fact, I told Carlos the same thing at the end of the year when I was flying home. I said, Carlos, I'll go to bat for you any day. The job you've done. There's a lot of things that go on that people aren't privy to. There's a lot of things that need to stay in the clubhouse that don't really need to be out there that people will never know about. But the coaching staff we had, I'll go to the bat for them. They worked extremely hard. From the hitting standpoint, somebody had asked me, from the hitting department, if there's anything I would have changed. And Jeremy Barnes did a great job. Him and I did a really good job of speaking different languages, believing in different things, coming from 2 different worlds, and making it work together for the better of the group. And that was the conversation him and I always had. We never disagreed on anything, right? We might have looked at each other and go, man, this guy is full of it, or I disagree with him. But whatever it was, we made sure that we brought it to the group that him and I were on the same page. The only thing that I had mentioned, and I think Jeremy would agree with this too, you cannot have 2 head hitting coaches. Like, players get confused when there's multiple voices. From my standpoint, I try to give Jeremy kind of his space because he did so much, and the players were very accustomed to kind of him being in the leadership role. And then when I left to be the bench coach for that 1 year under Buck, and then I came back into the hitter's role, Jeremy had established himself and his voice. And so, to make it work, I kind of gave him his space. And moving forward, and I said this to Lindor a couple months back, I said, I'll never do the thing ever again. Like, there should never be, things are set up when there's a head guy and assistant, when roles are defined, when there's one voice, I think is the best situation moving forward. But, whatever the Mets do, they're going to do. But I was asked that question. I said, the only thing probably that, needed to change was, I don't think 2 hitting coaches is the way to go.
That makes total sense. And a lot of teams operate that way with the one and then the assistant. Erik, we're out of time, but this was awesome, man. We'll definitely have you back on. Appreciate the time here. All right.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Kratz and Braun, thank you.
Thank you so much. Erik Chavez with us on FT. And AJ's on a plane in the air now. Hey, speaking of coaches, and by the way, that was great. I think that anyone that missed an ounce of that should listen to all of it. Even, it doesn't have to do with the Mets, just also just listening to where the game is changing from someone who was a hitting coach in the sport just now. Anyway, will Yadi join Ali Marmol in 2026 on his coaching staff? Recently, Yadi said, quote, right now we're in contact with St. Louis to become a coach for the Cardinals and help Marmol. He's still the manager, but I'd be there alongside him. Nothing's concrete yet, but we're working on it. Okay, so maybe they're working on what the setup would be, Kratz, and I mean, money's real. Maybe they're working on that, all of that. But it sounds like he wants to do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't talk like that.
And there's like 19 openings right now. So clearly he's good with being in St. Louis. Little awkward, but Ali is pro. Ali knows everything comes to an end, and maybe this helps. This helps him. I think if Ollie thinks it's good for the team, he could get on board with it. But ultimately, I get Yadi doesn't want to be in another uniform, because if that's the case, if he threw his name in the hat, he could easily be the Pirates or Rockies manager.
The one thing that stood out to me with our conversation with Adam Wainwright the other day was the media and the team representation factor, right? Pujols and Yadi for sure. Yadi does not love the media. Not that he's mean, he just doesn't love to speak. And you do have to speak. It's just part of the job. It's a huge part of the job these days. So I think it'll be good for him if he does spend time with Ollie, who's a very good speaker, really good with the media, and he learns from that, right? So as much as Yadi knows, there is a component that I think he'll be able to pick up more from if he spends time with Ollie. And in exchange, Ollie knows that Yadi's a brilliant baseball mind. And if he can help him win games, then Ollie's all for it. He's a guy I think that's truly not worried about job security. He's like, I'm me. He's been quoted saying it. Not everyone is. He's like, I'm going to do my thing. And then, yeah, if you think Yadi's better, like, okay, cool. I'll figure out what's next.
Yadi, I don't know him very well, just playing against him, but hearing people that played with him, great teammate. How does a Hall of Famer, how does a superstar connect with all 26 guys? He's never been called into the office to get sent down. How does he handle that part of it? Things that can be learned, and I think if he's on the staff, maybe he sees that. Maybe he's like, oh, you know what? I got to be able to talk to Sajasi and see what's going on in his mind, because he's a big part of the team, but not a starter every day.
We're back. We spent extra time with Eric Chavez, so we're going to go short here, and then we'll have more time at the back end. Well, not a lot. But anyway, the Astros are parting ways with hitting coach Alex Cintron, this according to Chandler Rome, and more changes are expected on their coaching staff. So we know that GM and manager are fine, but for Jim Crane, who's a very competitive owner in the sport, he's not satisfied, and they're making changes. They had made the playoffs a lot. So anyway, that's all we have. We just wanted to report the news for you. We're going to swing back again with a little quickie break so we can get caught back up on FT. All right, second little BetMGM soiree. I've been told we have things to show, so we can show them. First off, BetMGM posted, should the Yankees fire Aaron Boone? Like for yes, retweet for no. Can I get a live update on how that went? Not a single retweet. Last checked. How many likes though? Is it a large number of likes that were actually saying yes, or were there a lot of people who, abstained? Let's see if we can get a live. 35 likes. Okay. Well, they're wrong. Because if you think Boone's the problem, you're wrong. I think that the Yankees would be in a much worse spot if Boone wasn't leading the charge the last several years. Much worse. There's some others that can do a good job like him, but I think there are very few that can handle all of that. It's a lot. And it is a clunky roster for years, and they have been going pretty far. World Series last year, yes, bounce from DS this year. The Blue Jays are a better team.
They're a better team. They're better. It's just different construction. And I don't even remember which it is, but I'll take the exact opposite of what everybody said. He should not be fired. Aaron Boone has done everything. To me, he's maybe even exceeded what he could have done. He hasn't exceeded expectations. The expectations are World Series or bust, and you see how hard that is. He has gotten this team as far as they could physically go, and he shouldn't be fired. Absolutely
not a team built for the postseason correctly, in my mind. I know that Girardi has a better postseason winning percentage. I'm sorry. I mean, it's a roster construction issue. That's me.
They're a team built for the postseason if you want to flip a coin and see how they do in the postseason. See if Juan Soto hits a big home run. see if somebody
Yadier
does
is different.
something.
Yeah, but it's a home run reliant team. It's different, and if you listen to Eric Chavez just now, to me, I think the Yankees are actually behind, and teams like the Blue Jays and the Brewers are ahead of them, and they'll try and catch up. But that's me.
Yep.
BetMGM players get an MLB postseason odds boost token to score a bigger payout. Check that out in the BetMGM app or at betmgm.com. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Slap hands coming through with Kratz Hatz, and a reminder that we'll be back later. Let's slap and remind you that our post-game show will be live after the Phillies and the Dodgers matchup in Game 4. We'll see what happens, and then Kratz and myself will talk about it. Excited for it. So we'll see you maybe in the 9 p.m. Eastern time range, something along those lines, as this game starts at 6. Reminder, 3 o'clock local time in Los Angeles. Kratz Hatz deliver.
How can you not wear a Tigers hat after they've done what they've done to push this to Game 5 with the best pitcher in the game on the hill?
That's producer lady's favorite logo too, right? The tiger.
Yeah.
John Schneider is full of great quotes. We didn't get to it the other day, but he was like, I got all of Canada on me. There's a guy in Nova Scotia who could come after me if I let him down. It was great. But anyway, his latest was during the celebration, right as they were about to pop bottles, he said, start spreading the news. B word. Of course, you have angry, bitter people that are like, that's so unoriginal. Relax. They're having a good time. When you do the pop, that's what it's for, right? The famous Bregman one last year. Guess we'll never know. You want something that really makes a mark because it's not just with the boys, it's with everyone, because now it's on camera and it's social media. It's fun. Have a good time. And then next year, if the Yanks take them down, they can, sing "O Canada" or something.
That's it. You win, you get to do it. You lose, you get to pack up.
Yes. It's fun. Friendly competition.